Why do we villainize others? Why is it that in moments of conflict, someone we once cared for can suddenly feel like the enemy? Picture this. You're in an argument with your partner, a heavy one, not the kind you laugh off later. At first, it's small. You're overreacting. Then, you're selfish. And at some point, without really noticing it, you stop being a person in their eyes. You become the problem, the obstacle, the villain. Most arguments don't start with hatred. They start with frustration. Two people disagree, both feel hurt, both feel misunderstood. But instead of sitting with that discomfort, we start simplifying. We stop looking at them as a person with a bad day or a complicated past. Instead, we condense their entire existence into a single label: the enemy. So, why do we do this? Why is it that in the heat of a conflict, our first instinct is to strip the other person of their humanity? It's because the truth is too heavy to carry. To acknowledge your pain would mean acknowledging my role in causing it. And for most of us, our ego is a fragile thing. This brings us to the work of psychologist Albert Bandura and his theory of moral disengagement. According to Bandura, we are not inherently cruel. We have this built-in moral filter that usually keeps us in check. But in conflict, we learn how to deactivate that filter. He identified specific psychological maneuvers, switches essentially, that let us bypass our conscience and treat others in ways we'd normally find unthinkable. One of the most effective switches is something called Euphemistic Labeling, where basically we soften our language to make harmful actions feel acceptable. For example, we don't say, "I'm being cold" to someone who is hurting. We say, "I'm protecting myself from a toxic person." We use the language of self-preservation to justify our own lack of empathy. Then comes the attribution of blame. This is the "they brought it on themselves" defense. If I can convince myself that your reaction, your tears, your anger is proof of your instability, then my original mistake disappears. I am no longer the aggressor, I am the victim, defending myself against the villain. This is the moment the person dies and the villain is born. When someone calls you a monster, you are no longer you. You aren't a person, you aren't someone lovable or worthy of affection. You are something to be feared. Something terrible, something fundamentally unlovable. It strips away your humanity and invalidates your whole being, identifying you only as a creature to be defeated. They are not looking at your soul. They are looking at a shield they built to hide from their own reflection. Researcher Nick Haslam calls this animalistic dehumanization. He argues that when we villainize someone, we deny them agency, the ability to think, feel, and be complex in the same way we are. This creates a self-fulfilling cycle. If I treat you like a monster long enough, if I mock your pain and ignore your tears, eventually you will get angry. You will scream, and in that moment I can point at you and say, "See, I was right all along." But I didn't find a monster. I created one, just to justify the cage I put you in. So, what do we do when we are the ones in the cage? When we have been cast as a villain in someone else's script? It is a lonely place to be in. You start to look in the mirror and wonder if they're right. You start to look for the monster they keep talking about. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." He understood that we cannot stop others from misinterpreting us. We can only control the person we choose to be in spite of them. Reclaiming your humanity starts with a quiet realization. Their inability to see you does not make you invisible. If someone has to cast you as a villain just to keep their own story from falling apart, that doesn't say anything about your character. It says everything about their fear. You are not a monster. You are simply a witness to a truth they aren't willing to face. So maybe the next time you're in an argument, the goal isn't to win, it's to make sure the other person doesn't stop being a person. This was my first attempt at a video essay, and if you happen to enjoy it, then I'd invite you to leave a like and subscribe. Also, a quick shout out to my friend for the much needed encouragement. Thank you.